Okay, I believe we can now start. So I just want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, distinguished academicians, colleagues, and friends from across the globe. Welcome to this special session hosted by the Quality in Voice of Customer think tank as we celebrate the 60 years of the International Academy for Quality or IAQ, 60 years of quality function deployment or QFD. So these are two milestones, two legacies, one powerful convergence. For 6 decades, the International Academy for Quality has served a global steward of excellence, advancing ideas, mentoring leaders, and shaping the intellectual direction of the quality worldwide. And alongside this anniversary, we also recognize 60 years of quality function deployment, a methodology that transformed how organizations systematically translate the voice of the customer into engineering, service, and design excellence. Tonight is not merely a retrospective, it is a reflection on how enduring ideas evolve and how stewardship sustains relevance across generations. In the discipline of quality, methodologies do not survive by accident. Do you agree that? If you agree on that statement, please type in the number 60 right there in our chat box. We would love to see your comments right there. They endure because they solve real problems. They evolve because leaders refine them. And they spread because communities believe in them, just like IAQ and the other communities in the globe. PFD is one such methodology. So, from its early conceptualization in Japan to its global dissemination before the 1990s, and to its structured modernization through Blitz QFD and ISO 16355 and so forth, its journey mirrors the journey of quality itself, the discipline, adaptive, and customer centered. So tonight we hear this story from someone uniquely positioned within that lineage. So it is my distinct honor to introduce our distinct speaker, Dr. Catherine P. Chan. Dr. Chan is an academician of the International Academy for Quality, a recognition reserved for those who have made sustained and meaningful contributions to the global quality movement. She serves as the president of the Hong Kong QFD Association, general secretary of the Asia QFD Association, and a council member of the International Council for QFD. In 2019, she was awarded the prestigious Akao Prize, named after Professor Yoji Akao, the founder of QFD, in recognition of her significant contributions to the advancement of the methodology. What makes tonight's session exceptional is Dr. Chan's intellectual heritage. She learned directly from the late Professor Yoji Akao. He's the founder of QFD, who pioneered its early development and guided its spread from Japan to the world. And definitely, he's here tonight. We are honored as well that he's here tonight. Glenn Mazur, globally respected QFD authority whose work helped shape Blitz QFD and ISO 16355. So Dr. Chan represents continuity across generations of QFD mastery, honoring its origins while guiding its evolution for modern organizations. She brings not only knowledge, but perspective, not only tools, but historical insight, not only methodology, but stewardship. Dr. Catherine Chan, we are truly honored to have you with us tonight, or I don't know what the time zone of the other parts of the globe right now. So the virtual floor is now yours.
Hello, everybody. Uh, I'm very happy to be here to talk about QFD this evening in Hong Kong. And this webinar is really a very happy one because we are talking something non-technical, some stories about QFD, and I hope everyone will enjoy this webinar together for celebrating the 60 years of IAQ as well as 60 years of QFD. Okay, let me start. So, the first one is that IAQ, International Academy for Quality, was set up in 1966. And 1966 was also marked as the birth year of QFD. So this is really a very exciting moment for both IAQ and QFD. Glenn, I think you still remember this, this souvenir. This piece of magnet is the souvenir for celebrating the 50th anniversary of QFD in 2016. It is 10 years ago, and this souvenir is presented to all the attendees and participants of the QFD events, the symposia, everything that held during that year. So 2026 is the 60th anniversary of QFD also. So before I start, let me give some basic concept of QFD. I think those coming to this webinar more or less may know something or maybe very, very much about QFD. But to me, I want to say something simple about it. So some very basic concepts of QFD first as my introduction. Very simple one. So first of all, these three letters, what does it mean? I think to the Western people, this is something it does not make sense. Quality is a noun. Function is a noun. Deployment is a noun. And these three nouns getting together called QFD. So the long name is called, the full name is called Quality Function Deployment. And then you can see some character, non-English character. You may say this is Chinese, but I would say this is Japanese. So I do not know whether some participants this evening know Japanese. If they know Japanese, they will tell me something about this, these three groups of words. So quality, function, deployment. In Japanese, the grammar is different from English. The verb is always put it at the end. So say, I eat an apple, but when you put it into Japanese, it will say, I, apple, eat. So eat is the verb put in at the end. When you understand this weight of grammar, then you will understand these three words meaning. So put it in Japanese, it is talking how to deploy quality into function. So deployment actually is a verb here, but when you put it into a name, so put it into a noun form. So I repeat, the meaning of these three letters, quality, function, deployment, is talking about how to deploy quality into function. I think when you understand the meaning, then you will very easy to understand what this QFD is about, okay? So what a QFD aims for? QFD actually is put forward in mid-1960s in Japan. At that time, it's talking about the production time of Japan. So they are not doing something very quality at that time. So QFD was put forward to helping the manufacturers at that time in Japan on assuring the product quality. But the product quality, because at that time is transiting from production to product. So they want to do something about not just assuring the product quality in terms of production, but also assuring the product quality in terms of product design. So this is the aim of QFD. And what the QFD offers is talking about a system and also some operating guidelines. and then a toolbox and some methods. So you know a system, guidelines, toolbox, everything. So helping to collecting the raw data about what the customer needs and then process the collected raw data into operable data. The operable data could be, for talking about which aspect you can be operated for the design, for the production, or for some other things. So because the raw data not just can be operated, so it have to process through a process, turn them into something that can be operated by the team, by the team that using the QFD. Okay. And then the most important is what QFD is emphasized. QFD emphasizes on we first understand the customer needs. And understand the customer needs is from the perspective of customers, not, talking about the supplier, understand the customer needs, but we have to take the perspective of the customers to understand their needs. This is the first step. Before the team apply the professional knowledge to formulate the solutions to meet customer needs. So it get what is first, what is the second, and what is, the first action is to understand the customer needs. And that time we do not use, the professional knowledge of the team. After you understand, then make use of the professional knowledge of the team to formulate the solution to meeting the customer needs. So this is the QFD emphasis. So this is the very, very basic about QFD, and I hope I can give you a very brief introduction about it. So what are we going to share in this webinar is 3 parts. The first part, I want to talk about 2 kinds of deployment that is involved in QFD. This is very basic, and I want to make it as simple as possible for all of you. And then the second part, I will tell the story of Professor Yoji Akao, how to get the QFD spread from his home country, Japan, to overseas. And final part is coming to the modern QFD, something about how to make improvement to the classic QFD. Okay? So, session 1. There are 2 kinds of deployment of QFD, which when I first encountered QFD, it made me a little bit confused. But so after Glenn Mazur, everything teaching me about QFD, I try to make it clear here to let everybody, when they read about the books, read about the papers of QFD, can have a concept what is meant by deployment there, okay? So this is what I just talking about. QFD is talking about deploying quality into functions. So I just repeat it because we will talk about the deployment now, okay? I would say deployment is turning. I don't know. Do you get my meaning? Means turn something into another thing. But turning is not a very good verb because it is not the actual meaning. So the turning just tells you that it is not transmitting, it is turning. So it is not talking about the direct or the linear kind of learning that only makes a transmission of information. The process is have to get a lot of processing through the whole turning process, okay? So I will say deployment is translation. This is a better word. It is talking about taking a migration from what to be needed or required to how a product, it can be a service, it can be something, that to be designed or produced. In a more specific term, it is talking about the transformation of data from one form of data into another form of data. Okay? So through this learning process, the turning that QFD makes, it is not simple. It will go through quite a lot of steps, but the turning is very comprehensive and thorough. So inside this process, you will go through exploration, elaboration, interpretation, induction, a lot of things, and all are involved in this turning process. Okay? So when you make a fuller interpretation and conversion, the data that turned will help or inform the team on the subject matter that they are studying. So come to the central part. So I have talked about there are two kinds of deployment there in QFD. The first kind of deployment, I would say it is conversion deployment. Because QFD, I have talked about this for the production first, and then in Japan, the production will develop into, not only doing the production, but also to design their own products. So the first kind, I would say, at the production side first. So I mean, the buyer want to buy something, they would give them the product specification. And then conversion deployment, I can say, is to convert the product specification into the production specification. So demanded qualities, I can say it is on the given side about the product. And the quality elements is talking about how to get them the elements for achieving the qualities that demanded by the supplier. Okay, this is the first kind. And the conversion deployment, it translates the requirements given by the buyer into like the features, the parts, and the process, the items, which is important, which are essential to making and producing the products. But it cannot help, the manufacturer find out the items at the origin. That is, what is the needs of the consumers or the users of the product. So it comes to the second part, the second kind of deployment in QFD. The second kind of deployment in QFD is interpretation deployment. And this is talking about the voice of customer. Now, I think you more or less understand what is meant by VOC. This is the raw data about the customer needs. And the interpretation deployment is talking about how to interpret the VOC into the demanded qualities. The product specification in terms of product design. Okay? So, interpretation deployment overcomes the limitation of conversion deployment. And this deployment, when added into QFD, you can see right now, QFD becomes a system which can turn what the customer needs into the final products. And it started from collecting the VOC and then turning the collected VOC into the need items and organizing the need items into needs. Finally, can identify the important needs and further on go into the production and the process afterwards. So you now understand there are two kinds of deployment in QFD. Okay, understand? Never mind. We talk it at the Q&A at the end of the session then. So the important needs that I identified are the control points for assuring the designed quality. So first, the team will complete the interpretation deployment and then continues with conversion deployment so that they can assure both the make and the production quality of the product. Okay, this is the whole process, how the deployment is involved in the whole QFD process. So we join them together. So on the left-hand side here, you can see this is the interpretation, deployment. And then through the conversion deployment, we'll come to the other side. This is the part which is going to take care, for the production of the product. So when joining together, and I would say QFD is a turning system. And so you're through articulating, architecting the modules to be addressed in a logical manner, and the QFD system will provide a holistic method for assuring quality from design to production. So this is the basic idea about, the deployment of QFD. So here I finished the first part. This is a very basic concept about QFD. So I hope through this session can provide the basic idea for those to read about the QFD books, to understanding the QFD, papers, whatever. Now come to the interesting part, which is talking about how Professor Yoji Akao, bringing QFD from his homeland, Japan, to global, to overseas. So I would say I would like to dedicate this session to my very dear and respectful QFD mentor, late Professor Yoji Akao. And Yoji Akao is the founder of QFD and is and also the world quality guru. And Professor Akao had played an irreplaceable role in my QFD learning journey. And he passed away in 2016, also in the year that QFD is entering its 50th anniversary. And this is a very, important year to me. So I would like to take this opportunity to tell something, the story between me and this, my very dear QFD mentor, okay? So first of all, let me to tell you something about myself, okay? I have some very happy time with Professor Akao during, talking about 14 to 15 years together. So I first met Professor Akao at a conference in Bangkok in 2003, and I think everybody recognized him. He is Professor Kanor. Okay, so they both go to a Bangkok conference, and at that time, I was just a PhD student. So he said, "Oh, you are doing PhD." So both approached me saying, so humble that coming to say to me, "Are you studying PhD?" Coming to say this to me, and then he come to listen to my presentation. And from that time, I learned, I start to knowing about Professor Akao as well as Dr. Kanor. And then in 2007, Professor Akao and Glenn Mazur, my another QFD mentor, presented the Akao Scholarship to me in Williamsburg of the United States in 2007, 4 years later. And then 3 to 4 years later, Professor Akao and Glenn Mazur came to my university again. They are the external examiners of my PhD students, my PhD studied. So this is my whole PhD, studying journey, and both Professor Akao and Glenn Mazur accompany with me with my learning journey. Okay. So, and then after 2010, in the following 5 years, I have the chance of accompanying with Professor and Mrs. Akao to go to many places to attend conferences, to conduct QFD seminars and workshops, and after my PhD graduation. Okay. So I share some seldom photo. You will see the more not solemn faces of Professor Akao. So this one is Professor Akao like karaoke. So he is a great singer. And this is a picture talking about his 84th birthday celebration in Tokyo. And this is a very happy trip. We go together in Malaysia. And this is Mrs. Akar. Okay, you can see this woman. This is Mrs. Akar. So we go to conferences, we travel together, we make a QFD workshop. Okay. So, okay, come to the central part. Okay, story. Come to talking about the logo and global dissemination of QFD. So QFD was founded in mid-1960s, and in early 1970s, the formulation of QFD is completed. And get to the mid-1970s, QFD started to get known in Japan. And in late 1970s, about 10 years after QFD was founded, it was started to bring to overseas. And in this part of session, I'm going to talk about how Professor Akao, spread QFD to other, parts of the world, okay? So in Japan, this story is told by him when I was with him in early 2010s. So some part of the contents may be missed out or whatever. This is only dropped down by me when he told me the story. Okay, so Professor Akao is the chairman of the QFD research group in Japan. He led this research group for a total of 23 years. So first, he was the chairman of QFD research group as JSQC, and then at JSUD. So adding up together, this is talking about 23 years, okay? And I want to show these three very, very important QFD, colleagues of Professor Akao. First one is Yoshisawa-san, second is Shindo-san, and third one is Ofuji-san. And Professor Akao, before his retirement, he has taught 2 universities, and I do not talk much about the university name. For the foreigners, the Japanese sometimes is very difficult to remember. But especially Fuji-san and Shindo-san get a lot of things, a lot of work which will enhance the spread of QFD in Japan as well as the globalization of QFD, okay? So, Toyota plays an important role in QFD development because it is a very first company presenting QFD. In late 1960s, Toyota Auto Body means a production workshop. and initiating practicing QFD. So Takisara-san invited Professor Akao to teach his engineers and managers QFD at Toyota, auto body shop, okay? So what is the first book of QFD? The first QFD book was published in 1978, and it was written by Nijino-san and Akao-san. And the relationship between Nijino-san and Akao-san is teacher and student. And so you will know they both work together on researching on QFD, and Nijino-san is the teacher of Akao-san. Okay, so they together published the first book on QFD in 1978. Okay, a very important book. Okay. And then in late 1980s, Professor Akao published two QFD books in late 1980s. It is about the practical applications of quality deployment for new product development, on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side is talking about Honshin Kari. So these are the two QFD books Professor Akao published in late 1980s. And in early 1990s, Professor Akao published three more books. And on this side, the left-hand side, is the Introduction to Quality Deployment, which was published in 1990s. This is a very, very important book. That means telling how to do, QFD. And on the right-hand side, which is Akao-san co-authored with Ofuji-san and Ono-san about how to do the quality deployment methodology. I hope you still remember I've talked about Yoshizawa-san and Professor Shindo. So under the supervision of Professor Akao and Professor Yoshizawa, Professor Shindo added the case and the study that done by the QFD research group of JSUD during the period of 1986 to 1997, about 11 years, into a collection book. So it named the book as the Advanced QFD Technology for Valued Creation, which is talking about the collection, the case collection book, okay? And after retirement, Professor Akao taught QFD at a part-time basis at Yamagata University and Asahi University. And then he selected some cases that he did under his supervision and added them into a book, which is called Product Development Method, SECI Model, and QFD for Knowledge Transformation, 2010. It is about 5 years before Professor Akao passed away. This is a case study book, okay? So I give a brief background about the QFD in Japan. So now we try to see how it is going to other parts of the world. So the first one is talking about Korea. Korea, Professor Akao told me that it is the first place he taught QFD outside Japan. So at that time, in 1978 to 1995, Korea just next to Japan. So he traveled very easily to go to Korea. So he conducted QFD lecture for Korean Standards Association for quite a long time, So the handout of the lecture was a Korean translation of the Mijino and Akao QFD book that published in 1978. Now, you know, the first QFD book plays a very important position for the first dissemination of QFD to overseas, okay? And then come to Taiwan. Taiwan is also very near, to Japan. So another translation happened again. So another place, the second place, Professor Akao bring QFD overseas is Taiwan. And Professor Zhong is the owner of a business consultancy firm and also a publishing company. So he is also a very important quality expert in Taiwan. So he invited Professor Akao to go to Taiwan to conduct QFD lecture in early 1980s. And then, during that period of time, the late 1970s and also and 1990s, Dr. Zhong of Taiwan translated two Professor Akao's book into Chinese. So this one is the one written by Mijino-san and Akao-san. And this one is written by Professor Akao talking about how to do QFD. So it translated into Chinese version, okay? So I'll come to the part of the United States, okay? So QFD was introduced to the United States in 1983, an important event that is held in United States. So Mr. Imai-san of Kansai Institute, so those studying Kansai must know Imai-san. So he invited Professor Akao and his QFD colleagues to deliver a 4-day QFD seminar in Chicago. And that seminar is very giant. So talking about 80 quality managers coming from the prominent companies to attend that seminar, okay? And in the same year, the first paper, Quality Function Deployment and CWQC in Japan, was published in Quality Progress. And this is the first paper published in English overseas. QFD papers published overseas. And this is also an IAQ academician, Bob King. He is the boss of Globe QPC. So he also invited Professor Akao and his QFD colleagues to conduct QFD lectures in the United States every year for about 10 years. And Bob King also write a book called Better Design in Half the Time, which was published in 1987. Okay? These pictures are given by Glenn Mazur, very old photos, but very historical valued. And here, this is Taguchi-san, also here, talking about the QFD training organized by American Suppliers Institute in 1987. This is talking about the QFD training organized by Kansai Institute in 1987, okay? And this one, Glenn Mazur is here, and it is doing the QFD training for Ford Motor in 1987. And Glenn Mazur again here, doing QFD training for General Motors in 1990, okay? And the first United States QFD Symposium was held in 1988 in Michigan, okay? Uh-huh. This is very important because Glenn Mazur do the translation for Professor Akao's book. 3 books was translated. These 3 books, and the middle one we call the Bible of QFD. So many overseas, people learning QFD must look at this book in the middle. This is translated in 1990s, and this one is about Honshinkari. This one is the first book which Professor Akao did together with Professor Mijino. Okay. Now come to the QFD Institute. So Glenn Mazur is the executive director of QFD Institute, and it was established in Mexican in 1994, okay? Now, so we come to Italy, and this part is the story told by me by Professor Akao. So this is like he got a 2-day seminar in late 1980s, and also Professor Akao went to Italy to speak and teach QFD many times during late 1980s to early 1990s, okay? And also during the first European QFD conference in Milan, okay? Now come to bringing QFD to South America. The first one, Professor Akao spoke QFD in South America, actually, is at a IAQ meeting in 1989. This is a very important one, and I think every one of the IAQ academician is very delighted to get in Professor Akao first spoke QFD in South America in GM, in an IAQ GM in 1989. So in the foreign few years, Fuji-san, QFD colleague of Professor Akao, the university colleague. So he traveled frequently to go to Brazil to teach QFD, okay? And then in Brazil, and also another professor, Professor Zhang and Professor Kendrick. And Professor Kendrick is a good friend of mine, and he established Institute of QFD and Product Development Management in 1999. So it was established at that time, okay? Now I want to turn it to Edwin. Edwin, are you here? Edwin. Oh, where is Edwin? Edwin.
Oh, I'm here. I'm here. Yes.
Yes, I want to hand it over to you.
Okay, just a minute. I invited Professor Akao to Costa Rica in 2005, and for some reason he said, "Yes, I'm going." Yeah, and we had a 1-day seminar, QFD seminar here in Costa Rica. He visited 2 companies, half day each company, and I want to tell you this about this bush here. He went to a garden, a famous local garden, and this bush here is called the fishbone bush, and he couldn't believe it that the name of the bush was the fishbone bush, and he took lots of pictures with that bush, and the name is here. So in this tag here, you can see fishbone bush, and we had a great time with him. Now I understand why he said, yes, I'll go to Costa Rica so easily, because he wanted to spread QFD all over the world. And here is Professor Akao teaching QFD to local Costa Rican professionals. And here in the whiteboard, you can see Professor Akao explaining the Kano model. That was my introduction to the Kano model in 2005.
Okay.
So that's it. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Edwin. It is really very good because Professor Akao doesn't tell me this story. Added me a missing puzzle piece of his global journey. Okay. Thank you, Edwin. Okay. So then come to Germany. Germany is also making a translation of Akao's book into the German version in 1992. Okay. And he also, go to Germany to teach QFD. Also a very good friend of mine, and he's still very active in the QFD community because he's establishing the QFD Institute Deutschland. And he's still very active in this QFD community. And so he invited Professor Akao to attend the German QFD Symposium in 2000. Actually, he also held, international QFD Symposium together with Glenn Mazur in Germany several times. Okay. So coming to bringing QFD to China, and here is talking about Dr. Zhang Xiaodong. Zhang Xiaodong is a very good friend of Leo, the CAQ of I, very good friend of him. And he is a student of Professor Akao. So he invited Professor Akao to go to China several times to speak QFD in the early 1990s. And then the first QFD Symposium of China was organized by Shanghai Association for Quality in 2005. And then it come to the establishment of the Asia QFD Association, which is right now doing a lot of QFD work in China, which was established in 2016. So it is talking about the 10th anniversary of the Asia QFD Symposium and Innovation of doing its 10th anniversary in 2025. And this symposium grows very giant, from talking about only 200 participants to last year's is talking about over 900 participants in one, in the whole symposium. And coming to this year, 2026, it is aiming to having 1,000 participants from all over, the places coming all over China and also from Asia areas, okay? So the last session is talking about bringing the QFD to Hong Kong. It is about my story. I make it short, but I want to bring out is that the first one bringing QFD to Hong Kong is not me. It is Professor Chin. K.S. Chin is an IAQ academician here. And also Doctor. Doctor is also an IAQ academician. They both invite Professor Akao coming to Hong Kong in 2010 to in 1995 to talk about give a QFD talk at the City University of Hong Kong. Okay. And then I established it Hong Kong Quality Function Deployment Association in 2009, and very, very honoredly that Professor Akao was the honorary president of my association. Okay. And come to the some QFD activities in Hong Kong. So Professor Akao came to Hong Kong quite a number of times. Okay, so he held workshop, the seminar, the symposium, and here in 2012 he came together with Glenn Mazur to conduct the QFD White Belt program in Hong Kong. Okay. So about 10 minutes left, but I really want to go through the section 3. This is a very important part about QFD, the latest development. So before that, I still have to give a few slides about the classic QFD. So something which had come across QFD must be very familiar with such kind of programs, okay? So it is talking about the HOQ. And I will say this is called the within house deployment. That means we're doing the deployment in this here, talking about having the qual, and never mind about the operation. You just understand the shape will do, because come to the operation that will be a long lecture. Okay, so it's talking about the deployment making here. Okay. And the within house deployment is a two-way matrix, talking how to translate the what's. The what's is the needs. How is the methods or the elements that able to meet the needs. So it is talking about a correlation between the what's and the how's. Okay, it is a two-way matrix. Okay. And you may also have come across a very famous model called the four-phase model. And actually, this is a model which is a customized version of QFD, which is used by the auto suppliers in the 1980s and 1990s. So it is a customized, it does not say it is QFD, but it is a customized version of QFD. So that one is talking about house to house or phase deployment. So the flow of phase will guide the team finish clarifying the majors of one aspect before moving to another aspect. So you will understand the house of quality is talking about the within house deployment, and then come to the four-phase model, which is an example doing the phase deployment. Okay. So, but the problem with the house and the phase deployment is that the single one item to one item way of pairing within a house, or the sequential one house to one house way of working across the phase, will cause the team very easily fail in completing the whole set of deployment because of the time involved, because of the effort involved. This is a very major problem of practicing QFD. And also another problem associated with it is that there is an embedded way of dealing the numbers throughout the process, because you can see many QFD here is doing like the ordinal scale, like 1, 3, 5, or 1, 2, 4, or 1, 3, 9, this kind of ordinal scale. For this ordinal scale, the mathematical operation is not feasible, so the quantification come out is not valid. So come to the modern QFD then. The modern QFD, I would say there are two important elements. One is talking about the Blitz QFD. This is the Blitz QFD is formulated by Glenn Mazur and his QFD colleagues in the United States. So the characteristic of Blitz QFD is talking about making the deployments across the multiple columns on a spreadsheet. And the full range of the compact tables will considerably shorten the times processed, the QFD process. So make it short is that there are two important Excel or the spreadsheet table will be involved. One is called the customer voice table, and another important table to be involved is the maximum value table. And put it into a diagrammatic form, you will see that on the left-hand side is the customer voice table, and on the right-hand side is the maximum value table, and the areas shown here is doing the deployment. And for the details, I think later why not? Glenn Mazur give us a lecture here, okay? Okay, give me just a few more minutes, okay? So, and another element which is incorporated into QFD is AHP, and it is talking about how to supplement, talking about the mathematical operations. So, I come to the conclusion of my today's talk, which is talking about the classic QFD, which is, the basic features which Akao and Magino-san suggested and devised some 60 years ago, had laid down the fundamentality of QFD. And then come to the modern QFD, there are two features. One is the Blitz QFD, second is the incorporation of AHP. And this improvement made by modern QFD enhances the efficiency, the effectiveness, the applicability, and the result validity of QFD. And this will all be forming into the ISO 16399, which is, I think, Glenn Mazur has spent so much effort on composing it. Later on, we must have to invite, Glenn Mazur to give us a talk about ISO 16355. So I finished my webinar here. Thank you very much for your kind attention for 1 hour. Thank you very much. Okay.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Chan, Catherine. So thank you for that insightful and meaningful session. And today allowed us to really trace that evolution of QFD from Professor Yoji Akao's foundational work to its global expansion to the Blitz QFD and the ISO 16355. So QFD really reminds us that innovation begins with disciplined listening and structured translation of the voice of the customers. Thank you for carrying forward this important intellectual legacy. So perhaps you can open maybe 1 to 2 questions, Catherine, from the floor. But to begin, I can, ask a question. Maybe we can also ask one question coming from the audience. My question is, in today's AI-driven environment, where does QFD create the strongest strategic impact?
Glenn, where are you? This must be his question. Glenn Mazur, where are you?
Oh, I'm here somewhere.
Yeah, my teacher is going to answer.
So there are two important directions. AI being in support of QFD, in other words, using machine learning and artificial intelligence to continuously scam the internet and social media for consumer preferences, problems, wishes, desires about products that they use. And being able to update this real time using AI. The limitation, of course, is who posts information, influencers on social media, do they represent the broader user body or not? And two, can you trust them? So that's a problem that we're facing. The second use of AI and QFD is, can QFD help build better AI models by bringing in not only the functional work of artificial intelligence, but things like social responsibility, humanity, environmental impact, and other non-product functional requirements that the modern society has. And Professor Hertzworm in Germany at the University of Stuttgart is leading some very important research studies in these areas. And so, yes, the work is ongoing. Sadly, I probably will not live long enough to see it in its full fruition, but we expect that at some point the process, the thinking process of QFD will continue, but the mechanics will be fully automated.
Thank you so much for that, Glenn. So insightful. No question coming from our audience. Maybe last question from my end. I know Glenn already said like a little bit in terms of like the future. I know that we are celebrating the 60th anniversary of the QFD. But you know, the question is for you, Catherine, as well as for you, Glenn. Looking ahead, how do you see QFD evolving in the next decade?
And I invite my another, VOCTT member Kim Stafford, and he is also a very important, QFD expert in the world. Kim, can I pass this question to you?
Yes, for me, it's good early afternoon to everybody. So I think the key thing that we're seeing is the establishment of within the IAQ of this group, which helps us focus on that early part, that early phase, but then the translation, the integration into whatever we might be looking at, whether it's big systems, it might be services. So the opportunity and the need to grow expertise to inherit the legacy that Catherine has so ably described, that Yoji Akao and Glenn have brought. Glenn has been my mentor and tutor. I only had the opportunity to meet Yoji Akao once in 2010, but I was able to share a glass of wine with him, which was a great experience. And I also heard him sing a wonderful Japanese traditional song in a cafe in America, which is quite strange and surreal. But that said, what I see as critical is the embedment throughout the design process, from strategic aspects of design through to deployment into whatever we might be looking at, services, etc. The use of AI is coming through. So I think what we're talking about here is the IAQ being a critical vehicle to take this into the world and to help the world use it to do things such as expanding its use within sustainability and many of the other critical areas. I've used it in education to enhance education methods while I was at associate professor at university in the UK, but also in services, in IT, all over the place. And what's come are the methods that allow us to think through logically a lot of data and bring it down to something that's of real value to people, to really establish a quality at the heart of design and development. And that's what Catherine's told an excellent story about. This is about bringing it into the daily experience of engineers, of software people, systems people, and move us away from this guesswork that goes on in so many big systems. That's been my experience. But I can only say thank you to Catherine and Glenn and Anil from the Voice of the Customer think tank for encouraging me and helping educate me to move me away from my deep science technology background into understanding more about how to do things for society. To me, this is what it's about. How do we improve society? So I think that's a rambling response to your good question, Ray. So that's my viewpoint. We need to build on what's there rather than moving on and forgetting it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Kim. Wow. We now have like a lot of like viewers from QFD perspective. So I know we don't have much time, but if you have some questions, you can always send it over to us, and I can send it over to Catherine, to Glenn, as well as to Kim, or to the think tank of Voice of the Customer. So if we conclude this special 68th anniversary session, I'm pleased to share that IAQ has prepared, a full year of activities in celebration of 60 years of advancing quality worldwide. We look forward to your continued participation throughout this anniversary year. But before we close the session, may I kindly request that you complete the short webinar survey. Completion of this survey is required for the issuance of your certificate. So we'll issue that e-certificate for you. So you can see it right here in the chat box. It will only take like a few minutes. Your feedback definitely will strengthen the future of IAQ programs and initiative. Just want to say thank you once again to our dear speaker, Dr. Catherine Chan, and
Thank you.
also to the participation of Edwin. We also have Glenn and Kim, and the rest of you. Raul is also here, and the rest of the
And also
some
to my VOC TT member Anel. He is
Anel,
really
Anel is
wonderful.
here.
Yes.
Kisam is here as well. Like, a lot of the academicians in the world are here. So thank you so much for being generous of your time. And thank you to all our global participants. So let us continue advancing excellence together. Just want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good day to all of you. Until next time. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your patience. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.